So, I don't know if you guys know a lot about business, but I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret. So, I have been business coaching for quite some years, and I've learned a lot about business, and I've learned a lot about marketing, and I've learned a lot about sales. And one of the things that I learned in business is that one of the ways that you can potentially increase your chances of closing a deal, of getting a sale, is by making guarantees. Now, when I learned this from one of my business coaches many years ago, I even implemented this tool, right? One of the things I was taught about business is that one of the ways that you can lower people's hesitation about moving forward with you. One of the ways that you can make people feel safe when it's time to do business with you or buy with you is have a guarantee. And many of you guys, all of us have seen this, all of us have experienced this. I mean, I'm pretty sure all of us have actually bought something because of a guarantee that was attached to it. Like there's this really popular mattress company, and I can't remember the name of it, but they're really popular. And the reason I know they're really popular is because they have this really unique guarantee, like this really out of this world guarantee. So, this mattress company, they say, buy our mattress, sleep on it for 90 days. And if you don't love it, send it back to us for refund, no questions asked. And I actually remember one of my coaches using this mattress company as an example of how to make guarantees that are so good that they make people feel like when they're buying, there's no risk, right? And so I was like, wow, this is fascinating. And what's so crazy is that most people don't take companies up on their guarantee. You're always going to have a small percentage of people that are waiting for an opportunity to get their money back. But most people, they buy because of the guarantee, but they don't necessarily follow up the guarantee. They don't necessarily make sure that the company did everything they said they were going to do. Or if they have issues with the mattress, maybe they're like, we've been sleeping on it for 90 days. Like, it's not the best, but I don't want to go through the hassle of getting a whole mattress returned, right? And so these guarantees, they can be really, really enticing. So why am I talking about guarantees? Why am I talking about business when we're here to talk about how I boosted my confidence and silenced my doubt? I'll tell you why. It is because it is my belief that guarantees and the promises that we've been made as consumers has unfortunately helped us to develop a very unhealthy relationship with certainty. With certainty. So, what I'm saying is, oftentimes, when we're spending our hard earned money, when we're making the decision to invest in a product or service, one of the very first questions we want answered is very specifically, what am I getting? What can you promise me? Put me in the chat if that has ever been you. Have you ever been on the consumer side of things and wanted to know, what's the guarantee here? What am I going to get if I spend this money? Can you spell out for me in black and white what I can expect to receive in exchange for my hard earned money? Tell me if that has ever been you. Me. Just put me in the chat. And I'll tell you how I know this, because I've been in business for over a decade. And I get that question all the time when people are enrolling in our farm to table plant-based coaching program or in our business accelerator. They want to know, what's in it for me? What has other people gotten? What can I be guaranteed? Is there a level of certainty that you can provide for me? Like, am I really going to be able to get clients, like you say, using your motto, Coach Lisa? Am I really going to be able to potentially reverse this type 2 diabetes or this high blood pressure or get this weight off of me or get these aches and pains? Can I really repair my relationship with food? Like, give me some level of certainty. Yep. Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you, Growth Matters. Good morning, y'all. Yes. And so many of us, we want that guarantee. We want to know, hey, once I give you this money, give you my hard earned funds for whatever you're about to give me in return, can you show me proof that I'm going to get what you say I'm going to get? And I promise you that works great in business. It's a phenomenal business strategy, especially if you operate out of integrity and you really sell what you say you sell. It's a phenomenal business strategy. However, when it comes to how we navigate life, when it comes to our confidence, when it comes to us being able to make decisions and being decisive, did you guys know, or at least this is my theory, that these guarantees and these promises have unfortunately assisted in us developing an unhealthy relationship with certainty and expectations? I'm about to break it down even deeper, but before I do that, y'all know I need to know what you're sipping on this morning. Before I tell you the one skill that I have personally used to boost my confidence and silence all the doubt and quiet all the noise and the chatter in my brain when it comes to making decisions about my life, I want to know what you're sipping on. Good morning, YouTube. Your girl is back in the office. Honey, been traveling for the past several weeks. So happy to be back here with y'all on the mic and in the office. I got my hot tea and my radical obedience mug. Yes, indeed. Tell me what y'all sipping on in the chat. So I had to speak at two retreats this past week. So I spoke at a retreat in Jamaica, and then I spoke at a retreat in the Poconos. And the retreat that I went to in the Poconos, y'all, they had this super cool activity, this workshop where we made our own tea blends. Now, y'all know I was all in front row behavior for that because y'all know how much I love tea. Y'all know we got our hot tea on here every Monday morning. And so we did this workshop in the Poconos this past week where we made our own tea. So I'm sipping on a custom blend today. I said all that to say, y'all ain't touching me today. I made my own custom blend of tea. I had my peppermint and my ginger and my tossy and all of the spearmint. She had all these wonderful flavors. And so I was like, I can make my own blend, say less. So I'm sipping on a custom blend of my tea. Plus, I added in a vanilla Camaro tea bag as well. So I got my herbal blend. What y'all got today? Cheryl says she got matcha, Wanda hot lemon water, Carmel moringa. Hey, that's what's up. Growth man. Oh, Afia. Okay. I didn't know that was you. Afia has water live all the way from Europe with us this morning. Or what time is it there, Afia? You might be in the afternoon. Jamaica says she has a berry smoothie this morning. Okay, you better get those berries in. It's never a bad time for antioxidants, okay? Never a bad time for antioxidants. You better murder some cancer cells this morning. Lachey says she's sipping on water this morning. Okay, so y'all got y'all sips. Y'all got some sips this morning. Susan, water. LaShonda, just water. That's what I like to hear. Man, it's good to see y'all online. It was even better seeing y'all in person. Shout out to Natasha and LaShonda and everybody who came to Jamaica with us this past week. I want to thank everybody who came out. We had a phenomenal time. I spoke at a retreat in Jamaica, the Girlfriends Getaway, and I put the offer out to my audience earlier this year to join me this month in Jamaica. And I say about 12 people came out as part of my crew, and I am just so grateful. So thank you guys so much. Afia said it's 3 p.m. Oh, yeah, it's mid-afternoon. Oh, yeah, all in, all in, all in. Thank you for joining. Okay, let's get into it. Let me tell you guys the one skill I'm so excited about today's talk. Let me tell you what was the catalyst for this conversation. What was the catalyst for this divine download? So this past week in Jamaica, I spoke a couple of times, right? And the final time was on a panel. And I was on a panel with my good friend Jackie, and then I was on with Patrick and Nicole Cujo, and we were all on a panel. And one young lady raised her hand and asked a question. And she asked us, did we know that we would impact this many people? Right? It was such a great question. She said, did you know you would impact this many people? Right? And so everyone was answering the question on the panel, and Jackie was like, no, when I started this, I had no idea how many people, I would impact. And then, Nicole and Patrick Cujo, they were like, no, had no idea. This was not the plan, right? Did not know how many people I would impact. However, when it was my turn, she said, did you know you would impact this many people? And my answer was unequivocally yes. Unequivocally yes, right? I've always known I would have an impact that was far and wide, right? And I didn't think anything else of it. I answered the question. I said, absolutely, unequivocally, I knew I would impact this many people. And I also told her, I know I have been called to the masses, right? I know I've been called to the masses. And I said it. I didn't flinch. I knew the answer right away. It wasn't a trick question. I wasn't uncertain. I didn't feel the need to be humble in that moment and say no. Like, no, I knew. I knew. And I didn't think anything else of it until later on that evening. We were on a boat ride. It was a white party on a boat ride. And one of the attendees at the retreat, she sat down next to me and we got to chatting. And she said to me, she said, you really impacted me this earlier this afternoon when you answered that question. She said, when the young lady asked if you knew whether or not you would impact this many people, she said, you didn't raise your voice. You didn't flinch. She said, you just said it with such a calm certainty that you knew. And she said, I was really taken aback by how confidently you answered the question. Right? She said, I was just so taken aback by that. And it launched into a whole conversation. And she was just really impressed with how well I knew what I had been called to and how many people I expected to impact. And so this eventually bled over into another conversation. The next day I was sitting in the lobby with my right hand, Coach Kiwi. Shout out to Coach Kiwi. And Coach Carmel was there as well. And we were having a brief conversation about that question. And I said, someone on the boat last night came up to me and told me how much my answer to that question impacted them. And so me, Kiwi, and Carmel got to talking about this concept of how many people you intend to impact when you get on a stage or get in front of the room. And I'm sure many of you have heard this phrase before. Have you ever heard someone say, or have you ever said yourself, if I impact, as long as I touch just one person? Has anybody said that before? Like if you're about to speak or you're about to do a presentation or you have some type of responsibility and you're about to be in service to people in some way, and it's going to be a crowd or a group or an audience. Has anybody ever said, as long as I touch just one person, as long as I impact just one person? I know you guys have at least heard this before, I'm sure, right? Well, Kiwi was saying she's always been that person to say that, right? Kiwi is a phenomenal group fitness instructor, personal trainer, fitness guru, mastery, and she teaches classes, and the classes can be huge, right? And Kiwi has said during our conversation, she said, yeah, I've always been that person that said, as long as I impact just one person, as long as I touch just one person, right? And I said, not me. I feel like if I only touch one person, I failed. I said, I have never adopted the belief that I have done my job as long as I've impacted just one person. That's just not my standard. It's just not my standard. And so why am I telling you these stories, right? The young lady asked, did we always know we would impact a lot of people? And I said unequivocally yes. And then me, Kiwi, and Carmel were having a conversation about our intentions when we get up to serve people. And I said, I've never been a person that said, as long as I can bless just one person. That's never been my rhetoric, and that's not my standard. That is actually below my standard. And so why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because the one skill that has boosted my confidence, silenced my doubt, helped me to stop vacillating between options and choices, helped me to become more decisive and make firm decisions is knowing. And when I say knowing, what I mean is the difference between two distinct types of knowing. The one thing that has helped me to move the needle significantly in my confidence, in my certainty, in my relationship with certainty, and in my obedience, radical obedience, is understanding and mastering the difference between two types of knowing. I'm about to bless some of y'all right now. Get your pens, and paper ready. Get your crayons and your notebook ready. There's two types of knowing that I need you to understand the difference between so that you too can have confidence when you answer questions, so that you too can have a level of certainty that competes with the mattress company's certainty when they say sleep on our mattress for 90 days or bring it back. You want to be able to make guarantees like these companies make guarantees. But unfortunately, many of us do not have confidence in our knowing. So if you want to quiet the mental chatter, if you want to stop oscillating between knowing and not knowing, then I need you to understand there's two types of knowing. And many of us are living our lives in 100% of one type of knowing and 0% in a different type of knowing. So somebody just say, help me in the chat. Just say, help me while I sip my tea, y'all, because it's cooling off. You know, you can't let it cool off too much because then you don't have a good taste, right? You got a sweet spot between too hot and too cool. So I don't want to miss my mark here. Hold on. Give me, help me in the chat. And I'm going to teach y'all two types of knowing. And when I mastered the difference between these types of knowings, that's when things went to the next level and I could start sleeping peacefully at night without being so unsure about my decisions. Y'all say, help me in the chat. Let me see it. Ooh, it has brewed, it has stewed to perfection. Thank you, Afia. Thank you. Come on, Zippy Doo. Who is Zippy Doo? Hello there. I love the name. Okay, listen, y'all. I'm about to help y'all. I'm going to tell you two types of knowing, and then I'm going to tell you two problems you may have, okay? All right. So, when I was thinking about how impressed the lady was with the way I answered that question, I really start thinking deeply about why did I answer with so much certainty? Why did I know unequivocally, without blinking, that yes, I was going to always impact this many people and that I was called to the masses, right? And I really got to thinking about it. I was like, help me, God, so I can teach this to the people. And here's what God gave me. There are two types of knowing. The first is what we're going to call derived knowing. This is what we're going to call an outer knowing. Okay. So I'm calling this a derived knowing. Derived from what? Derived from information, derived from facts, derived from history, derived from science, derived from evidence. So the first type of knowing that exists is a outer knowing. It's a derived knowing. That means it has the knowing, the certainty in this case, has been derived from evidence and facts. Like we know for certain. Like, do you know that, when you show up here, this is going to happen? Or do you know when you add this to this? I'm going to tell you, let's make it really simple. Let's say you're baking something. Let's say you're baking my banana bread, our vegan, salt, oil, and sugar-free banana bread that's so absolutely delicious. And now, how do we know that it's going to rise when we put it in the oven? Because the recipe calls for the baking powder and the baking soda. And we have evidence that when we put baking powder and baking soda into the recipe, the bread is going to rise. It's going to rise. So that is a derived knowing. That means I am certain, I am going to make you a 100% guarantee that the bread is going to rise when I put it in the oven because I have history and I have science on my side that says when I add a teaspoon of baking soda and when I add a tablespoon of baking powder into this recipe, the bread is going to rise. So when somebody asks you, okay, we're putting this batter into the oven for 30 minutes. Can you tell us unequivocally with 100% certainty that the bread is going to rise? You're going to say, as an experienced baker, you're going to say, yes, unequivocally. I'll put money on it. I'll put my firstborn on it. I know for a fact because I know the baking powder and the baking soda that's in the recipe is going to help the bread to rise. That is what we call a derived knowing. That is what we call an outer knowing. That means that we have some data, we have some history that we can refer to, we have some knowledge that we can rely on that is going to make a guarantee that the bread is going to rise, right? Okay, so that's the first type of knowing. Somebody put derived knowing in the chat. Somebody put outer knowing in the chat. This is a derived outer knowing. That means there's evidence on the outside that we can use to make a guarantee about what's going to happen. That's the first type of knowing. That's the first type of knowing. Let me give you the second type of knowing. The second type of knowing is what we call inner knowing. Inner knowing. And this is what I call a divine knowing, right? This is a divine knowing. So a divine knowing means I don't have any outer evidence. A divine knowing means I've never made this recipe before, nor has anyone else. The ingredients don't give us any type of indicator of what's going to happen. But somehow, some way, I feel that it's going to turn out right. There is a divine knowing and then there is a derived knowing. When I understood that there was two different types of knowings, and I acquiesced, I surrendered to both types of knowings, that's when I began to be able to make confident and certain decisions in my life. Divine knowing means I can't tell you how I know, but I'm just as willing to make a guarantee as I did with the derived knowing. I can't tell you how I know for sure, but there is a connection I have with the divine that gives me a certainty that can compete with the derived and outer knowing. There's an inner knowing and there's an outer knowing. A derived knowing comes from fact, science, evidence, what you guys would call proof, what you guys would call a sign. And a divine inner knowing comes from a relationship with the divine. It comes with a healthy relationship with your gut instincts. It comes from a healthy relationship of faith and surrender that allows you to make just as big guarantees as you do when they are coming from a derived knowing. So there's two types of knowing. Here's the issue. The reason so many of you struggle with confidence and the reason so many of you struggle with doubt is because 100% of your decisions are relying on derived knowing. 100% of your decisions require proof, physical evidence, history of someone else doing it. You are unwilling to make decisions and move forward unless you have some type of black and white guarantee, unless you've had hundreds of people that did it before you that will make you feel safe moving forward. And unfortunately, that's not how faith works, and that's not how miracles work. There are some decisions that can only be made from divine knowing, and you will not have any derived knowing to rely on. And when you only make decisions and move forward from outer knowing and you don't use any inner knowing, that means you take chances, but they are not big leaps. That means you move forward, but you move forward with so much hesitancy that it causes you stress and overwhelm and angst because you're constantly in your mind oscillating, but did I do the right thing? Is this the right choice? Should I have said that? Should I do that? Is it too late? Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe this costs too much. It won't work out. I don't know if I should. And then the next day you're like, absolutely, right decision. I'm right on track. This is the right way to go. And then the next day you're right back. But I don't know. I'm so scared. What if it doesn't? I can't promise. I need somebody to tell me. God, send me a sign. And you want to know why? Because you haven't put into practice using the divine knowing. Now, what I'm trying to tell you is the one skill that's helped me is not just knowing that there's a difference between inner knowing and outer knowing, divine knowing versus derived knowing. But the real skill, if I was to boil it down to one word, is my hearing. I improved my hearing. That means I made sure my hearing was so good. My hearing was so good that I could sleep confidently after making decisions. Now, when I say hearing, I'm not talking about audible hearing. I'm talking about spiritual hearing. Some of you, your hearing is so bad. Your hearing is so bad that it causes you to be indecisive. Your hearing is so bad that it causes you to juggle and stay in the middle and jump in and out of decisions. Your hearing is so bad that you are unwilling to make guarantees about moving forward. Your hearing is so bad that you have plan B's and plan C's and plan D's because you don't understand the power of divine knowing and the difference between divine knowing and derived knowing. The one skill that boosted my confidence as a decision maker, the one skill that began to silence the chatter and the doubt and all the noise that keeps us up at night is my hearing. So the question becomes, Coach, how do I improve my hearing? Because I have been living my life 100% on derived knowing, which means before I make any choice, before I spend any money, before I invest in myself, before I move forward in a relationship or in an investment or with taking a chance on myself, I require so much derived knowing that I almost never ever get there. My hearing is so bad. So your spiritual hearing has to be improved before you can have a level of confidence that helps you to make decisions without flinching. When the young lady asked me, did you always know that you would impact this many people? The reason I said unequivocally, without a doubt, and I'm called to the masses, is not because I've ever been in front of the masses. I still don't have millions upon millions of followers or listeners or viewers. So, how on God's green earth do I know? How was I able to make her a guarantee? How was I able to answer the question with certainty that yes, I am called to the masses? It's because my hearing is so good and I have such a healthy relationship with God and my faith that I know every time I speak, I just know. Every time I get up and show up to coach, I just know. Every time I'm in the midst of helping a group of people or individual through a struggle or a problem that they're having, I just know. It's a feeling. It's only a feeling. There's not a measurement for this knowing. It's not. I can't say if I put in 1 tablespoon of baking powder and 1 teaspoon of baking soda, that's the formula for this guarantee. I don't have that. All I know is I'm called to this. And I can tell you unequivocally because I have paid attention to every time I listen to what God tell me and I move in that direction, that divine knowing has never let me down. So here's the issue. Some of you have such an unhealthy relationship with certainty. That means you require so much guarantee. You require so much evidence outside of you before you're willing to move, that you are delaying your miracles, delaying your blessings. You need so many people to give you a data girl and a data boy before you believe that you're called and that you're meant to do what you do. Well, I got an email from such and such and they told me I blessed them. And then my coach said this, and then my parents said this, and then my kid said this. So I guess that means I'm qualified. You require so much outer knowing to feel that like you're qualified. You require so much outer knowing and so much outer evidence, and you require so many testimonials, and you require so many people to buy from you before you really are willing to believe that you are meant for this business. You require so much. You require so much validation. You need so much outer knowing. And you know what's happening? You're waiting for all of that outer knowing, all of that outer validation to pile up before you're willing to take bigger leaps. Now, you can go that route. It's just going to take a little longer. If you're waiting for so much black and white evidence before you're willing to take bigger chances and bigger leaps, it's just going to take a little longer before you get to that promised land because all of your decisions in life rely on derived knowing, rely on outer knowing. And the receipts are going to pile up, but it's just going to take a little longer. Whereas if you improved your hearing and you just waited for the one validation, the only validation that matters, which is God's validation, once you get that, I don't care how many testimonials you do or don't get. I don't care how many sales you do or don't get after this launch. I don't care how many people come up and pat you on the back and say that a girl and that a boy. You like, God already told me. Y'all can say what y'all want. I'm moving in this direction regardless. So it's your hearing. You have to improve your hearing. There are divine downloads that God gives you when your hearing is good. Now listen, how do we improve our hearing? Now, sometimes you have to you guys have to decide what the problem may be. Sometimes there's a hearing problem. Sometimes there's an obedience problem. Sometimes there is a hearing problem. Sometimes there is an obedience problem. So you must do two things. One, so there's a group of you that are listening right now that just need to improve your spiritual hearing. And there's a group of you that are listening and watching right now that just need to improve your obedience, meaning you've already heard, but you just won't obey, right? So some of you just aren't hearing and some of you just aren't obeying. Now, if you have a hearing problem, meaning you don't really feel like you're getting these certain divine downloads from God and telling you, no, you're meant from this is the path you need to go in, or yes, you need to make this decision, you need to leave this relationship, you need to enter into this relationship, you need to move forward with this person and slow down with this, you need to move forward with this business and slow down with this, you need to stay in your 9 to 5, you need to leave your 9 to 5. Like, there's some things that you just know. Now, for some of you, if you have a hearing problem, you want to start with your health. If you have a hearing problem, that means the channels are clogged. You want to start with your health. You might be sleep deprived. You might be filling your body with a bunch of junk, the sugar, the caffeine, the energy drinks, the ultra processed food, all of that stuff that causes the hyperactivity in the brain, which means your nervous system and your mind is overactive. It's overactive. And when the nervous system and the brain is overactive, plus you're sleep deprived, plus you're unwell, your health is not optimal, that really impairs your hearing, right? If you don't have a mindfulness practice that gives you present moment awareness, that impacts your hearing, right? I started hearing better spiritually when I started meditating and eating super clean. Like, when I gave up all the refined sugar and all of the excitotoxins that causes all the hyperactivity in the brain. Like, your brain is jumping around so much, you don't know if it's your voice, God's voice, their voice, his voice, the voice of your parents, the enemy's voice. You don't know what's happening. So your hearing is messed up, right? Because there's so much toxicity coming in. So we have to detox to hear better. So if you have a hearing problem, right? If your spiritual hearing is not good and you just don't feel like you're getting these inner knowings where you know this is the way I should move, improve your hearing by detoxing. Stop pouring all this foolishness into your body. Stop eating all of that junk. Stop consuming all of that junk. Stop spending time with so many negative entities and people. Start being still. Start resting and sleeping properly. Start owning the fact that you have to be still sometimes and stop moving all the time and rest. Introduce a meditation practice or a mindfulness practice that forces you to have present moment awareness and be in the moment. That is one of the ways that I improved my spiritual hearing. That is one of the ways that I was able to really connect with my inner knowing is I had to slow down. You have to slow down, right? And so it is not always about the works part, right? We know, faith without works is dead, but some of us have overly mastered the works. And because we're constantly working and we're never stopping to be still, we can't activate the faith because we think everything has to happen from our own hand and our own effort and all of this external validation and evidence that we require. And that's because we haven't developed a healthy relationship with our inner knowing. So there's an inner knowing and there's an outer knowing. There's a divine knowing and there's a derived knowing. And you guys have to improve your hearing if you feel like the inner knowing is not there for you. And it starts with your health. Most of us have so much in our bodies, the alcohol, the sugar, the MSG, the food dyes and the preservatives and the coloring and the chemicals. All of this distorts our mind and it impairs our ability to be still and to hear properly. So if you have a hearing problem, you start with your health. If you have a hearing problem, put me in the chat. Let's see who we got. Do you have a hearing problem? Improve your health. Eat, sleep, rest, slow down so that you can hear from God more. You go, 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 and you don't have time to sit with your decisions and your circumstances, right? Being still is one of the healthiest things you can do. So is it a hearing problem? I don't know what's the right thing. I never know who's telling me to do what. I never know if it's my idea or God's idea. I never know if it's the voice. There's a gut feeling that you tap into when you're healthy. It's one of the things that happens quite quickly inside of our 30-day challenge. So you guys know, we do this vegan SOS, salt, oil, and sugar-free challenge twice a year. The next one is starting January 1st. And we do this challenge. And one of the things that begins to happen about 2 weeks into the challenge is that people begin to hear better. Like they start coming to class during the challenge and they're like, oh my God, the divine downloads are crazy. Since I stopped eating sugar, since I stopped drinking caffeine, since I've been eating more fruits and vegetables, since I've been doing the meditation that you tell us to do during the challenge, since I've been being still and doing things I love, since I've been getting out into nature and slowing down, intentionally slowing down my nervous system, coach, I can hear better. I know what God wants me to do next. So here's what I'm here to tell you. It doesn't take that long to improve your hearing. We just have to start getting you into cleaner environments. We need to detox your body and your mind. We need you to be still, and then you can start hearing what you're meant to do next. Lachey said it's a hearing problem. Susan says it's a hearing problem. 100%. Thank you guys for your honesty. Absolutely. Absolutely. So good. Okay. So now, the next issue for some of you is that nope, I know what God told me to do. Like I'm very clear on what what my steps are, but I have an obedience problem. I have an obedience problem. Like some of us have a hearing problem, some of us have an obedience problem. We have gotten the divine downloads. We know what our moves should be. We know we should be making plans to leave a certain circumstance. We know we should be making plans to enter into a certain circumstance. We know what we should be doing. We know we should be moving where we should be moving towards our health. We know what we're supposed to be doing, but we have an obedience problem. If you have an obedience problem, you have an unhealthy relationship with certainty. You require so much certainty that you can't move, right? And so this is where you have to understand what faith means. This is where you have to understand that you have a faith issue, right? You're relying on all of your might for things to come to fruition. So if you have an obedience problem, it's because, let me make it even more plain. Let me give you terminology that will give you a little ouch. If you have an obedience problem, you have a control issue. Does that resonate? If you have an obedience problem, you have a control issue. You require to have so much control that the moment you have less control than what you prefer is the moment you stop moving. The moment things are out of your hands is the moment you stop moving. So if you have a hearing problem, you have a health problem. If you have an obedience problem, you have control issues. Yep. Yep. Relinquishing control is one of the most powerful things you can do to put yourself in miracle territory. What will happen if you created the thing that God told you to create? If you did the thing that God told you to do? If you left the circumstance that God told you to leave and you just let Him lead? How many of y'all got control issues? Put control in the chat if you got a control issue. Put control in the chat if you have a control issue. Some of us, we can't be obedient because we require so much control. We require so much control. We want to do the things that God is telling us to do. We're clear on what our next move should be in that particular circumstance, but it's the relinquishing of control. I don't know how this is going to affect my kids. I don't know how this is going to affect my partner. I don't know how this is going to affect my financial future. I'm not sure how this is going to turn out. I don't know if anybody's going to buy it. Like you can't control consumers. You can't control your babies. You can't control your spouse. There's so many pieces that you can't control that you just settle on disobedience. Who was that? Who was that? Lorna, Wanda, Afia. You have a control issue. If you have an obedience issue, you have a control issue. Like, I don't know if I spend this money, like, is it going to turn out like they say it's going to turn out? I need so much control that I just don't do anything. Yeah. Yep. So pick your problem. Then you got a hearing issue, you need to start with your health. If you have a obedience issue, you need to start with learning how to relinquish control. Zippy said, I got both problems. Help me. I have both problems. But guys, my confidence boosted when I realized that all knowing doesn't come from fact and black and white evidence. And so now when I got very good at hearing God, I meditate every single day. And in those moments, like that is my time to be silent and listen. And then when I hear, I then do what I'm told. And sometimes that's so challenging for us because our intelligent brain kicks in, and then we want to justify why we're not doing what we're told because we have so much education. We have, we're so smart that even when we get a divine download and we hear from God, we are so smart we can justify not being obedient, right? We can convince other people that our decision is the right decision. That's how smart we are, right? We have so much data and evidence and intellect that we talk ourselves out of obedience. Like he been told you to start coaching other people. He been told you were qualified. He gave you a testimonial, but we won't relinquish control because our intellect chimes in and starts talking us out of it, right? And so we have to understand the difference between divine knowing and derived knowing. We have to know whether our problem is a hearing problem or obedience problem. And we have to start moving with speed. That's what makes obedience radical, is how quickly you move when God tells you what to do. If you want things to happen quicker for you, and if you want the things you're praying for to come to fruition quicker, improve your hearing. Stop relying on 100% derived knowing to take action and start relinquishing control. That's what I did. And that's when I was able to stop oscillating between options in my mind. You know which one is the right one. It just happens to be that the right one is the scary one, right? But then when I improved my faith muscle, the scary one was still the right option and the one I went with. Does that make sense, everybody? Susan said, I'm working on being still instead of all over the place. Gotta slow it down. Gotta slow it down. Gotta slow it down. And you guys gotta master the art of relinquishing control. And I am not suggesting it's easy. I'm just suggesting that it's necessary. I'm just proposing how necessary it is for you. Because if all of the chatter in your mind is keeping you up, we have too many options. And when you can't make a decision, when you aren't being decisive, it's not because you don't know the right choice. It's just that one gives you the least amount of control. Does that make sense? It's so crazy. Like we think, yeah, having a lot of options can be good, and it also can be challenging, but not if you have mastered the art of inner knowing. Because then it don't matter how many choices you make. This is the option. But that comes with practice. That comes with practice. So listen, if you guys want to improve your inner knowing and you know hearing is your issue, here's what I want you guys to do. I want you to make sure that you're registered for our next 30-day vegan salt, oil, and sugar-free challenge. This is a complimentary challenge. But those of you who really struggle with, I'm not getting the divine downloads and the mental clarity like I need to make it to feel confident in my decision making, then I want you guys to join our 30-day vegan salt, oil, and sugar-free challenge. It's kicking off on January 1st. And let me tell you something that's going to happen tomorrow. So tomorrow is our first prep class for this challenge, right? It's our first prep class, Tuesday, October 28th, 6 p.m. EST. And I am so excited about this class tomorrow, our first prep class, because I'm going to be sharing with you guys how you can start preparing right now for our next challenge. But in addition to that, we also have a major announcement that I'm super excited about. So we have a major announcement that's going to take our next 30-day vegan salt, oil, and sugar-free challenge to the next level. And so we need you guys in the room. Let me drop the link to register in the chat. If you aren't registered for our next challenge, you need to get in there. It's one of the best challenges out there to improve your health, to combat stress and burnout and overwhelm, and your spiritual hearing by starting with your health. So let me drop it in the chat for you guys. And those of you who are not registered, get registered. when you register, you're automatically going to be registered for our prep class. So our first prep class is tomorrow, October 28th. We have 3 prep classes in the run up to the challenge. We have one in October, one in November, one in December. And the challenge starts January 1st. So if you really need help in this season, guys, with your health, if you know your health is kind of standing in between where you are and where you want to be, then I need you to get in our challenge. Let me and my team walk with you on this health journey. We already have well over 300 people registered. We're going to have tons more as we get closer to January 1st, right? We're still a few months out, but we are going to help you take it to the next level, because you can't really improve a lot of areas of your life if your health isn't optimal first, right? You need mental clarity, you need energy, you need to know how to eat like you got some sense, and most importantly, you have to develop a healthy relationship with food. If food has power over you, then you are in a whole lot of trouble, right? So we got to get you to a place where you have a healthy relationship with food, optimal health, you're rested, you're feeling good, you're feeling like your best self, so that you can make the best decisions for yourself. So the link is in the chat. Click the link, lisaangelsmith.com/challenge. There it is on the screen as well. Make sure you get registered, because starting January 1st, we're going to take it to the next level. And tomorrow, during our very first prep class, me and Kiwi have a super, super big announcement for you guys about what we're doing different in this challenge. And so we're excited to announce it to you guys. So join over 300 people who have already made the decisions to start 2026 off right with their health. We are excited to have y'all. Give me a takeaway from today. Which one was for you? Was it knowing the difference between divine knowing and outer knowing? Was it a hearing problem versus an obedience problem that is really starting to take a toll on your confidence and your ability to silence all of the negative chatter in your mind? Let me hear it. Let me hear it. Come on, Susan. Susan said, giving it up to God. Make my decisions strategic, methodical, and specific. No second guessing. When I work in the natural realm, it's a hot mess, to put it mildly. Absolutely. You got to work in the spiritual. Let God put his super on your natural, honey. Absolutely. So good. So good. Hey, Lachey said, join. The challenge gets better and better. And does. I mean, I told y'all, if y'all think iOS come up with updates every 2 days, you should see Lisa A. Smith, honey. We stay growing and getting better over here. So we have a really cool announcement tomorrow about this next challenge that I'm really excited about. And it gives me so much joy to do this work, because the more you do the work, the more like divine downloads that you get, the more you play in that spiritual space and just decide to rely on God and stop stressing about all this stuff. Just the easier things get. It's crazy, because you do harder things, but the easier it gets. Like the more your hearing improves, you actually begin to take bigger chances. You actually begin to take bigger leaps of faith, when you start really recognizing and acknowledging the power of God. So then you begin to do harder things. You become less risk averse, but it becomes easier. It's crazy how when you first start off, you're doing lighter things, but those things are harder. But the more you rely on God, you begin to do harder things, and those things become easier. It's just such a beautiful growth. It's a beautiful pattern of growth and evolution. So I'm excited for those of you who are going to stop making 100% of your decisions rely on derived knowing, and start really listening when you get that gut feeling. Like, I don't know how to tell you this is the right decision, but I'm just telling you it is. Like, I don't know how to explain to you that I'm called to the masses, and that I'm meant to impact a ton of people, but I just know, and I don't feel like I need to prove it. I just know, and that has to be enough. And so I'm going to move like I know that I'm called to the masses, right? Because that inner knowing told me so. So this is so good. Wanda says divine control, which means I got to do better. Absolutely. Got to start relinquishing some control. Got to start relinquishing some control. Stacy, you are so welcome. Shout out to Stacy. Stacy said, thank you so much. I love this community and growth. Thank you, Stacy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're excited to have you guys in the challenge. Make sure you're registered for the challenge. Once you're registered for the challenge, you're automatically registered for the prep classes. So there's not a separate registration for the prep classes. We have 3 in a run-up to our start date, which is January 1st. Our first class is October 28th. Our second class is November 25th. And our third one, which is for VIPs only, is December 16th. So get your tail registered for the next 30-day vegan salt, oil, and sugar-free challenge and allow those divine downloads to start flowing to you by the second week when we clear out all the junk, detox the body and the mind. You can start hearing better. You're going to start being more still. And that is going to activate a whole lot of miracles. Okay, y'all, that's it for me. I will be back here next Monday, same time, new topic. Same time, new topic. Same time, new topic. Same time, new topic. That's going to be my same time, new topic. Y'all see, I'm still tired a little bit from traveling. You know, you get silly when you're tired. I don't know if anybody else. Same time, new topic. Somebody drop a beat on that. Same time, new topic. I'm going to see what divine download give me this week. God, give me this week. And we'll come back with a new topic next Monday. Make sure you are subscribed to my YouTube channel. Make sure you have notifications turned on. 10 a.m. EST every Monday, Monday morning keynote with yours truly. It's been a blessing to be back here with y'all. You're so welcome, Wanda. See y'all tomorrow for the first prep class in the next 30-day vegan challenge. Come, be ready, get in the front row. We got some announcements. It's going down. Until then, bye y'all.